Welcome to part one of formatting a worksheet within Microsoft Excel. I am the Preppy Professor and I am here to give you a tutorial of how you can format your worksheet. Some objectives of this overview will show you how to format values within your worksheet, show you how you can change the font size, as well as apply some font styles and even change the alignment from left to right or even center the data that is within your worksheet. I will show you how to adjust the column width, even the row width, how to insert and delete rows and columns throughout your worksheet at any time while you're working in it, as well as how to rename, move, as well as copy a worksheet. And last but not least, we'll review how to check spelling because that is also important when we are working within a file. So let's get started. I'm going to kind of minimize my objectives and go to the worksheet that we're going to be using to review these skills. And the first thing is, how do I format values? So within Excel, within part one, part two, you now are able to insert cells. You even know how to put formulas in. But now you need to, quote unquote, pretty it up. Make this worksheet where if you wanted to print it out and present it in a meeting or to other individuals, you can now format it in that manner. The first is, how do I format my cells? So this is an example of a data set of medical clinical ER expenses. Kind of a document that I use in a lot of my classes to demonstrate this data. So we're using and we're showing dollar amounts. This is money. So we want to format the columns that associate with some type of total when we want to show it in a dollar amount. So anytime you want to format a cell, you're going to actually select the values in that cell. And I'm going to select this column here that it is showing the total cost. On your home tab, you have the ability to change that value. If you go to, and you have a few that are commonly used here, such as dollar amount, percentage, these are the increase or decrease when it comes to the decimal of your data. But I actually want to blow it up and show you all the dialog box. That anytime you click that drop arrow, it's going to blow up and give you a dialog box that will give you additional features of formatting anything within that cell. So we want to show this as currency, money, okay? So right away, there's a default to say, okay, well, you're talking about money, you can show it to do 2 decimal places. You have the ability to change it and show it exactly however you want. You also have the ability to also change the symbol if you want to show it a different way. So I'm going to keep the default values and click OK. See how automatically within your worksheet, those values are now shown in currency. That is one way to be able to change the font. If you don't want to use the dialog box, you can do the same thing right here on your home tab on this ribbon of increasing or decreasing those decimals, taking the dollar sign, applying it, or changing it to however else you want to. So that's one feature to keep in mind. You also have the ability to change the font and the font size. So I'm going to take the header row of my data and I want to change the font. Well, I can bold it, I can italicize it, even underline it. I also can make it larger as well, okay? So I can make it larger by using my increase or decrease, or I can click the drop down box and actually change the size of the data here as well for my font size. If I want to change the theme of the font, I also have the ability to go here and choose a theme that I would like. Notice anytime you scroll over the name of that theme font, it shows you what it would look like before you even select it. So I'm just going to keep the default there, and you see how I have changed the header of my data. Within Excel, you can insert clip art as you would if you are familiar with using Microsoft Word. You would just go to your Insert tab. You then have the ability to insert anything that you would like to insert. You can insert symbols, you can insert text, kind of whatever you choose to insert within your table, you have that ability. Now let's move to our next topic of changing the font style as well as the alignment. So the alignment within a spreadsheet can also be modified. By default, your alignment is to the right, but if we wanted to center, so I'm going to again use my header row, and I want to center all of my labels within each of the cells. And notice, and you can play around with it and select the alignment and notice how it will change where your contents within your cell, where they are aligned. So I'm going to go back to center. You also, if you click the alignment settings, you'll get a dialog box. And then you're able to also select if you want your data to be in the center, at the bottom, or even at the top of your cell, depending on what you're trying to display. There is even something called a wrap text feature. Wrap text is where you're able to click that wrap text and notice how it would wrap the text that is within that cell where you're able to see it in the cell. So all of the data would be where you're able to see it. Because notice before, I'm going to click undo, the data was over multiple rows and some of that data you weren't able to see. So if you want to see all your data in one table, in one cell, one way to do that is to go to the alignment settings and choose wrap text. Now you also can change the different font styles as well. If you want to merge or make any other modifications. So I'm gonna just go through the overview of how to merge. So I'm actually gonna bold this. I'm going to make the font a little bit bigger. And then I'm gonna go to alignment and I'm gonna merge and center that. So this is the title of my worksheet. So I'm going to just make it where if I print this out, automatically everyone would know these are the ER expenses for this clinic. Okay, so that's a way of kind of how you can insert the different font styles. Now, what about adjusting the column width? Now, notice here how we have some of the different types of services, but we're not able to see them within our worksheet. So how do I change that? There's a way of expanding your column width to be able to see that. There's several ways to do it. The first way is if you take your cursor and you take it right in between. Notice how my cursor changes from the white double arrows, kind of solid, to now just lines. If I take my cursor, go in between the A and B, so these two columns, and double click, notice how it opens up that cell. That's one way where you can adjust the cell column width or the row width. Okay, you can do the same thing for a row. Okay, if you double click, since everything is kind of aligned correctly, nothing needed to be opened up here. Another way you can do it is actually take your cursor again, go there on the lines between those two columns, click, and you actually can drag it to however far you want it to be. Okay. Another way is to go up to that column and right click. Okay, with anything with Excel, it's going to be really almost 3 ways to do the same feature. Another way is to click the entire column, right click on your mouse, go down to column width, and here if you actually know the size that you want your column width, then you're able to go in and actually input the size to be able to change the size. So there are 3 ways how you can increase the width of your columns. So to demonstrate again, I'm just going to select these here. You can select an entire row. I can go up there, I can double click, and then notice how all of the cells that were selected, each of those columns, they automatically resize to what data what's in these cells where you're able to see them. Now, a tip that a lot of students don't know, and you may not be a student, you may just be listening to this to get some tips on how to use Excel, that if you have, now I want to find a cell with a formula in it. So if we close that up, notice you'll see pound signs throughout your worksheet. So you may think, oh my God, what happened? I can't see. The reason why you can't see, because your formula hasn't changed. It is because the width of your column is too small. So in order to show your data, whenever you see the pound sign within your worksheet, you have to then expand the column of the width of your column in order to be able to see that data. So remember that trick. A lot of people, it throws them off that anytime their column width is too small, this is what you see versus actually seeing the values within your cell. So it's just a matter of you going, double clicking, and actually adjusting the width of your column. Okay. The next skill I want to show you guys is going to be inserting and deleting a row. So within our worksheet, we have an extra row. I'm going to remove that. How I would remove that would be actually taking my cursor, going up to the top of my worksheet where my columns are located. Remember, your columns are always in alphabetical order. You see how once I put it at the top of my column, my cursor changes to a down arrow. If you click that, it's going to select the entire column. I then can just right click and I have the option to delete, and it will delete that column. What if I wanted to add? We're going to use row this time, because you can do it either for a column or a row. You would select the entire row, right click, and you have the option to insert. And it will then insert a row. Another way to be able to do that is on your home tab. You have your insert and you also have your delete options. Here is where you also could insert a cell, you could insert a row, you can also delete a cell, and you also can delete a row. So if I click that, I can do it those two ways of inserting or deleting rows and columns. Now, the next thing I want to show you is how to rename your worksheets. So within a workbook, you can have several worksheets. Okay, so in this one, we actually have two that has data in it. If I wanted to rename these, I could. How to rename them? And you can have many worksheets within a workbook, and they may need a name. So you're easy to find those. You double click and notice how it highlights the name. And I'm going to put here ER, and you can just put in whatever the title of your worksheet is. You can also change this one, and I'm just going to rename this one. Or, okay, I just did another. See how quickly I do those skills? If you don't want to double click in there to change the name, you can click on it, right click, and click rename. Once you click rename, then you can rename it. This is another way of how you can rename your worksheet. After you've given your worksheet names, you're able also to move them and put them in particular order. Now, how did I do that? You'll just go to the worksheet you want to move, hold down your mouse, and you see that my cursor now changes. It's saying, okay, you've selected the worksheet. What do you want to do with it? Then I could just move it and put it wherever I want it to go. Really nice feature to know about renaming and moving the different worksheets within a workbook. The last feature I want to talk about is spell check, which is so important. Within Excel, sometimes your terms, your words, or your labels are not going to be automatically checked for spelling. So another way you can go and check for spelling would be go to the Review tab. And on the Review tab, you have the ability to click spell check, and it will check all of the spelling. See here, it's telling me I'm good to go. Or you actually can use the thesaurus and change the names of any of the labels you have specified. Don't forget to do this before you share your worksheet with someone. This is just part one of formatting Excel. Please tune in to conditional formatting. where it's going to give you more details around how to format data.